Let me take you back to Bobby Fischer's legendary US Open performance, where Bobby Fischer invents a secret, brilliant chess trap to win in only 10 moves. And he hits this brilliant move against Samuel Reshevsky, one of the top players in the United States at the time. It starts off with best by test e4, followed by c5, the Sicilian defense. Bobby Fischer develops knight to f3, looking to add control over the center squares. Reshevsky follows up with knight to c6, combating the center squares as well. Bobby Fischer pushes d4 because after pawn takes and knight takes, if the knight takes back here, the queen takes, and actually it's not very easy to push the queen out of this position. Therefore, in this situation, Reshevsky chooses to develop instead g6, allowing Reshevsky to get the bishop on g7, which is a very strong position for the dark square bishop, also attacking the knight on d4. Here, Fischer, anticipating this move, plays bishop to e3, adding a second defender to the knight. If the bishop comes in and takes, at the end of the day, the queen once again ends up on d4. Reshevsky continues with knight to f6, developing his knight, but also attacking the pawn e4. The best move by far, Bobby Fischer finds it, knight c3, defending the pawn and developing his piece. Bishop g2 is played here, and Reshevsky is ready to castle quickly. In this situation, Bobby Fischer played bishop to c4 because here he is invoking the castle by threatening this f7 square. In this situation, Samuel Reshevsky has a Sicilian dragon. This is a very popular position that you will see often when playing against the Sicilian. Bobby Fischer tricks Reshevsky by playing bishop to b3. Here Reshevsky plays knight a5, which is oftentimes a great move. However, Bobby Fischer has a different idea, e5. And in this situation, no matter what Reshevsky plays, he is in fact losing. In this situation, you either have to take the bishop or move the knight. There are only two safe squares to move the knight, e8 and h5. And of course, taking the bishop also makes sense. We will go over all three options, starting off with knight takes bishop. In this situation, you can actually sacrifice your rook and play pawn takes. After the knight takes, pawn takes, attacking the rook. And after the king takes here, the knight is hanging and Fischer is in really good shape to win this game. The next option is knight to h5. In this situation, simply just g4, and notice here the knight is completely trapped. He has no safe squares, and Fischer just wins the piece. Based on this, Reshevsky finds that the only safe move is knight to e8, but this is where the trap gets absolutely diabolical. Bishop sacrifices on f7. After the rook takes back, we see knight e6, brilliant move, because in this situation, the queen is under attack. Her only two escape squares are completely covered, and if you take the knight here, the queen eats the queen. Reshevsky is now completely losing. Many argue that the best move in this situation is actually king takes bishop, because here, after knight to e6, the queen, yes, is still trapped and under attack, but the king can take. But in this situation, Fischer had this calculated. He has the beautiful queen d5. Notice that all the king's escape squares are completely cut off, so of course f5 is the only safe square. After the king moves to f5, we see g4 attacking the king. Once again, forced move to take. Notice the rook is going to come to g1 now, and before you know it, this game is completely game over. This is mate in 3.